All right. Welcome back to Lesson Plans to Laces, the podcast where we take modern educational topics and put them through the lens of two sneaker teachers. My name is James Alidor. You can find me at It's Jalidor across all social media contacts, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Mr. Guzman. Mr. Guzman, tell everybody where they can find you.
I am Mr. Guzman. You can find me on all social medias at Teacher Heat.
Yeah, good deal. And if you like what we've been doing, this is episode 5 for the record. For those that are tuning in, we have a consistent following. We're going to work on doing this every week. And if you like what you hear, like and subscribe, follow us, hit it on Apple Podcasts. That way you get notified when we put up a new episode every week. They drop on Monday mornings right now. And I'd like to keep that as our kind of routine at this point, right? Film later in the week, drop it on Monday. So, again, hit that like and subscribe and follow button. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and even with the visuals on YouTube. So, Goose, what have you been up to, man? It's been a week since I talked to you. What's been going on in your world, man? It's summer. What you got?
Nothing much. Just hanging out, going to Disney with the boys, making content, uh, doing all that stuff, all that fun stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I'm giving away my license plate holder from Disneyland that I just got on my Instagram and TikTok. So if you want to enter that, you just have to go to Teacher Heat on TikTok or Instagram and give me your favorite thing to do at Disneyland and like the post. You don't even have to follow. You just have to do those two things and you're good. And I'll choose somebody on Monday.
Oh man, that is a bargain. They don't even have to follow. That's a bargain. I love that.
Yeah, I thought about that. I know people do it for the following to get more people, but if I have to force you to follow me, you're probably going to unfollow me as soon as as soon as it's over. So I would rather people follow me for me than because I'm going to give something away. So just like it, comment, and if you want to follow, that's perfectly fine too. But I'm just giving it away. I didn't know that Disneyland had such a big teacher community. So I did that one carousel post um, and about finding your Disneyland, which is basically finding your happy place.
Yeah.
And there's just a bunch of other teachers saying Disneyland is my Disneyland. And I'm like, this took a completely different turn than I thought, shout out Gail said, powerlifting. Like I thought that's where it was going to go. I got traveling in there. Um, running, hiking, traveling. Like I thought that's what we're gonna get. Like so that we can show people like you can do all these things to kind of decompress, ground yourself. But it went to Disneyland is my Disneyland, and
That
now
yeah.
the community is so massive there for teachers. So I wanted to show some love and give them something back.
For sure. That post did pop off. I had seen when you initially posted it, and then last night when I was going to post some of my own content, that post popped back up because I had seen it on your stories, but then it showed up in my feed, and I was like, oh wow, this has definitely popped off, and you got a lot of people, and yeah, the comments it was like Disneyland's my Disneyland. So I love that for you. What is your favorite thing? So you talk about the giveaway, right? They have to name their favorite thing about Disneyland. What is your favorite thing at
So my
Disneyland?
favorite thing, and I posted on there, is just hanging out with my boys. Like I really just do what they want to do when I go. I don't really get on rides that I really don't have a preference in rides. My sons choose whatever we're gonna do. They give us the itinerary, right? They're just like we're going here, and the only reason I really go is so they can have some fun. The only time I'm doing something for me at Disneyland is when I'm filming the content. Shout out
Okay.
Mr. Summerall. Film the content, record the content. Um, that's the only time I'm doing something for me, and that's probably like a minute and a half that takes me to record an outfit of the day or the giveaway. So that's the only time I'm doing something. Other than that, they're choosing what rides, what food. They do it all.
Dude, that's awesome. What a dream, right? Because your kids are a little younger. What a dream to be able to be like, I'm going to Disney and I get to run the itinerary. I get to do the agenda. I don't know what
Yeah,
5-year-old me would have done if I was like given the agenda opportunity at a place like Disneyland. That would have been wild. I love that though. That's cool.
yeah.
So that's cool. Well, that's awesome. I love that about your social media stuff. This past weekend, I went and saw the Odyssey. I took my niece and nephew. I was on uncle duty. I had two one niece and one nephew, and they're older. They're in their teens, so early teens, and we had 4 days together. And one of them had a whole bunch of stuff to do with her friends, so I was just a chauffeur. But the nephew, who's a little younger, he's my boy. He definitely was all about wanting to go and do stuff. And I ate more ice cream in a weekend than I have eaten in a long time. So I'll just point that out. But we went and saw the Odyssey, and it was a weird split for me because the niece, she's a sophomore, and she's super into literature. And I was like, okay, like they've got to have read or got to be near the Odyssey at this point. So like books made into movies would be cool for her. So I was banking on that. And then the younger one, I was like, well, it's an action movie. So boys in action movies, like we got to have this. And so it was a good movie. They both loved it. I think that it's going to get a high grade. If I asked them to put it on a grade scale, like a rubric, like what we did with sneakers, it would get a good grade because they left and they were super excited. But we definitely did the millennial thing. I don't know if you did this as a kid when you went to theaters, but we did the millennial thing, and we definitely snuck candy in. So I had like 3 boxes of candy that I snuck my way in. So I'm just throwing that out
Yeah,
there.
my wife would take the biggest bag when we would go out on a date. Bring
Yeah.
the biggest bag. We just stuff that bag with candy because we're not buying candy there.
No, you got to take out a loan to get the popcorn and soda at a movie theater now.
At
Like
this point, yeah,
it's absurd.
it's wild. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
what do you think about spoilers for a movie like The Odyssey? Like people are like, "Hey, don't spoil the movie."
I heard somebody on a podcast one time. I was listening to The Wire, and they were doing episode by episode of The Wire, and people were complaining about spoilers. And they leaned into the microphone. And they were like, "Guys, the show has been out for 30 years. If you haven't watched it by now, I'm not apologizing. The Odyssey is thousands of years old. And if you didn't read it in ninth grade when they assigned it, that's on you, right? Like, so I'm not here for don't give spoilers. But I do think that any movie gets about a week before people can start talking about spoilers. So that's my general take. You get about a week. So I'm quiet on it. I'll just tell you that it's good. Special effects with it. It's a great Christopher Nolan movie. It's going to be up there in my rankings. It's not out. It's not going to outpace the Dark Knight trilogy. That's my favorite Christopher Nolan movies, but it's going to be up there. It definitely outpaces Interstellar. Maybe my hot take is that I do not like Interstellar. I told my
I
nephew that, and
think
he
I
wanted to
think I'm
fight
with
me.
you on that. I think
Yeah,
that's probably one of the most. I'm gonna just say boring. Like it was so much like cinematography, special effects, Matthew crying. Like, I'm like, dude, this is not what we expected. But it is a good movie. It just not to his bar.
yeah. No, when I told my nephew, I was like, I didn't even like Interstellar. He wanted to fight me, like physically, like the hockey, like drop the gloves, let's go. Like this is how do you have opinions like that? So I got bullied by a 12-year-old all weekend. Is all I'm saying. So
How are you so bold to give us
I,
to give us your opinion?
I know, right? How dare I? I thought it would have been the meme. How dare you say something so bold, but yet so true? But yet, nope, that was not accurate. So, but good deal, man. I know we're winding down the summer. I know people starting to already. First of all, back to school sales are already starting to happen, and I'm really getting bummed out about that because I'm not going back to the classroom this year. But at the same
It's
time, it
hitting me
also
right.
yeah, it is hitting me, but it also signals the end of summer. So for those of you guys that are going back to the classroom, it signals the end of a nice, a little bit of a breather, right? An opportunity to kind of reset. So I'm happy for you guys going back, but yeah, it's definitely hitting me a little bit. Have those been big in California, like the back to school sales and the lists and all that stuff coming?
Yeah, I mean the back to school sales are basically national, right? Like whenever Target or whoever Walmart starts their sale, they start it for everyone. So it's like I still have a few weeks, and I know they're putting me on edge because they're like, "Hey, here's the wish list. Here's all the stuff." I'm like, "Oh, I still have some weeks. Leave me alone." Like I know it's coming, but I did the same thing for them because we start later. They end before we do. So sometimes I'll go in there and like I'm finally out, and they've been out for like 3 weeks, and you know now they know that they're on the clock. So it's kind of, I don't want to say it's scary, but it is kind of like anxious. Like you're ready to start a new year, and we've talked about first day of school already. When you start, you start. Like there is no slowing down. You're just going.
Yeah, no, my school that I was at last used the phrase "drinking from a fire hose," because it does. It just starts, and the beginning of school, when it does begin, it's just constant things. I know at the high school level, you're dealing with football games and constant absences for like the preparation for that stuff, pep rallies. I mean, it's exciting, but at the same stroke, it's so many things, and you're trying to get your classroom set up. You're trying to get summer reading taken care of if you do that, and man, it's a wild time. So I'm excited for y'all, but at the same time, the back to school lists are always like the beginning of that situation. So, but that actually leads me to the point of the episode, right? Because I don't know about your algo, but school supply lists are starting to make the algo on threads and on Instagram. And so that brings us to what the point of today's episode is. Today's episode is titled Mythbusters Part 2. And in the first episode where we did Mythbusters, so episode 4, for those that are listening, we took internet myths about teaching and about sneakers, and we talked about why those are actually myths. They're not true. And so today we're going to flip the script a little bit. And my wife gave me a hard time. She said, you can't phrase it as a myth if it turns out to be true. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take internet opinions, internet myths, and we're going to say why they actually are true. So, Guzman, what is an internet opinion about teaching that is actually true?
This dude wants to sleep on the couch. Look at him. Instead of just saying, you know what, we know we messed up. We've rephrased it. He's like, no, we're still doing it. Enjoy the couch, buddy.
Hey, look, that's fine. That's fine. That couch is comfortable. I'm good for it.
All right. So I'm going first. I'm going first with my
Yeah,
teacher.
yeah, yeah.
Um, where do I want to go with this? Okay, I guess I will start with the political one because this is a myth, right? Wait, we're doing myths that are true, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I'm not doing the political one, because that one is not true. Uh, um, the one myth I do want to bring up is a special education myth. So when you are in an IEP, um, parents seem to think it's us against them, right? As in us being the school, the district, the teachers, everyone that's in education, and the them being the parents, the student, the advocates. That is a myth. Well, and that is something that, as a special education teacher, you have to try and kind of build that rapport. Everyone is there to help the student. We are all there to help the student. An IEP meeting is a collaborative effort. Everyone is there to show what is the best way to help the student. There is no one taking away something. There is no one like, hey, if we give them too much time, that's going to take away from our budget. There is none of that. Everyone is there to help the student. And this is something that's come up in a lot of my IEP meetings where they're just like, oh, you guys don't want to do this because you guys want to hold this off. No, sometimes some students don't need the extra support, right? And that's where, as an educator, you also have to advocate for your student, right? Because some parents are just like, we need maximum support. We need everything. We need, throw the buck at them, all the supports you can get. And as an educator, you have to, hey, no, he doesn't need all these supports. This is what we think he needs. It's not us taking away supports, it's us letting them know this is what we think is going to better help the kids. Just to go a little bit further, another myth is that more support equals more better, right? And I know that's not the correct way. Sometimes too much support can be detrimental to a student. Um, it can stigmatize them if they're being pulled out of the classroom. A lot of the time, students are like, oh, well, he might not be the smartest because he needs all this extra help. And socially, the teacher, myself, sometimes has to bring that up. Like, hey, if we do this too much, that might that might affect them socially. So there is a lot of factors, but we are not trying to like take stuff away and like pocket it on the backside because the district's going to give me money on the back end. We are all there to help the student. um, the sooner that a special education teacher can build that rapport, or teachers in general, that we are there to help the student, the easier those IEPs can be, because they are, I've been to some IEPs where they are very contentious. Like, there's people hitting you on the side of the leg, like, hey, don't say it that way because we might get sued. Um, but everyone has to understand, we're there to help the student. No one's there. It's not a us against them. It's a, how are we going to better help your child? So that is a myth. All right. We are there. We, we are there to support and to help.
For sure. So I have had the co-teach model as part of my instruction before. I've had some special ed sections of class, and so when you say the us versus them, what I hear is that parents believe, yeah, like you said, it's teacher versus the parent and the student, but it actually isn't us versus them if you think about it from this level. And hear me on this. I used to lead with this. The system is going to push your student into as few things as possible, meaning as few accommodations. So it is us versus them, but what you don't realize is I'm part of the us. Like I'm part of the you as your teacher and as your student's teacher. I'm helping go against the system that's trying to push your student through with as few accommodations as possible and to just streamline and get them through or just to pass them along. Like my job is to go with you and be on your team. Am I right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Um, I, if a parent brings up an accommodation, I mean, I'll talk about, hey, what this can do. More pull out, right? Um, More one on one time, stuff like that. I'm just like, hey, we can do that. Because this is what you want, but at the same time, we have to think about how it works socially, all this stuff. And if they're still adamant that they want that time, I'm not going to take it away from them. Again, it's a collaborative thing. When you're in an IEP, it is time for you to talk about your child. But in that same regard, I'm going to bring up the things that are going to help them as well. So
Yeah.
it's not a us against them. It's a, how are we going to better help this? Do you think more time is going to help them? I might say no, but if you are like 100%, I need that time, I will give them that time. But it is your time to also advocate, right? We're all advocating for this child. Um, so yeah, it's us versus us, right? We're
Yeah.
all there to be there for the student. And I've always took it as this way: if you're there for the child, that's generally all parents really care about. But a lot of them don't understand that you're not coming from like the district's point of view and stuff like that. You're coming from, as an educator, this is what I think your son or daughter needs. um and again, it's the us, right? This is what I think they need. But if you need more, all you have to do is let us know. And when we're going back and forth, that's where I think they might get that, oh, it's them trying to take things away. But again, we are also advocating for that child.
Absolutely. That and the misunderstanding I think of who's the us is often what leads to conflict in a special ed scenario. And that's at least again, I have a limited perspective when it comes to special ed teaching. This is your area of expertise. I've had co-teach classes, but again, I've always tried to look at it as an us versus the rest of the world because the world is a harsh and can be very cruel. There's not a whole lot of room for standard IEP practices in what we call the working world. I hate the phrase the real world because to a student, school is the real world. Just
Yeah.
another little FYI teaching tip, the more you know, right? Like a little commercial. The real world is school to our students. And so when they get into the working world, it frustrates me that the IEP accommodations won't be available. And so I've tried to look at the balance of what is needed to help them succeed beyond this classroom. Because when they leave here, what will benefit them the greatest? And I think that's the us versus them and how it gets dealt with. But I do think there's a huge myth that it is parent and student versus teacher and versus the world. So it's almost like there's multiple opponents like it's a WWE with the Royal Rumble. Like they're fighting the teacher the whole time, and then here comes Macho Man Randy Savage, i.e., the world, from the top rafters. Oh yeah, we're gonna kick a kid while he's down. He needed extended time. Well, that's too bad. No, so that they have to realize that we're all on the same team. And so I think that is something that you do a really good job of telling people and telling parents like, hey, this is the frame that we're working with. Have you ever had something go awry? Like, has it ever gone the other direction where that has come up? Where no, I don't think you have our students' best back.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I brought up the myth. Like I was in IEP, and it didn't happen once; it happened the one time, and then it happened again. And I was just like, okay, people aren't understanding what the IEP is. And of course, I work with predominantly Latino, Spanish speaking population, so they also don't really understand the law and the process and all that stuff. And I'm not leaving an IEP until people are comfortable. Like
For
I will
sure.
be there hours. Like until you are okay with what you're getting, will I say, okay, I'm done. But I will be there as long as parents need. This year, we're talking back and forth, and one of the parents says, "Well, I think you guys are trying to take too many things away from my kid." And we were just like, "What do you mean take things away?" She's like, "Yeah, I think you guys are trying to, you know, not give them as much as I think they need." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! We are all here to help your kid. Like none of us is trying to like we don't start off with the checklist of things and then the less checklist is what we, if we give them less, we get more money or anything." And that happened the first time, and I was like, okay, that maybe it was just a contentious one. Sometimes you have those IEPs. You always have to remember that it is their child that you are talking about, right?
Mhm.
You get a lot of mama bears and papa bears, right?
Oh yeah.
And you're working with children with special needs, and those kids sometimes you know you're gonna get something at you because these are their children, right? um but it happened that time, and then later on the road we're in another IEP, and then the same thing happened. Like, hey, you guys are trying to take all this stuff, I know, blah blah blah. And I'm like, whoa, our message isn't being sent across. The
Mhm.
message being that we are here to help. um they sometimes I have to remind them that the person that the student that is there is my student, right? Like
Mhm.
I am working with your child to help them, so why would I not want to give him the help?
For
I'm
sure.
with him all the time, like, or I'm with him or her all the time, right? So sometimes I even have to remind them of that. Like, I'm here. They're at my pizza parties and all that stuff. I'm here to help. I don't know if that gets lost in translation because it becomes like once you hit that room, you're just like it's the us against them again. Um, but it's definitely something where it's come up too much to the point where I'm like, IEP should not be contentious. IEP should be this is what we need and what we want, and us saying, okay, this is what I think they need, and collaboratively coming to an agreement and saying, okay, I am happy with what you're giving. And if you're not happy, then it's time to talk some more until you are happy. But that's what an IEP is. It's collaborative. It's not us getting one by you. Like we don't go back into the office and like, oh, I can't believe we didn't. We upsold them. We're not salesmen, right? Like, oh, I got her to sell. I got her to take one less accommodation. Like we're getting paid now. No, this is all about helping the student, and you have to understand that it's not us against them. It's just us trying to help your child.
Wait, you mean to tell me you weren't getting your kickbacks in your check for the number of accommodations you were knocking down?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because man, those bonuses that bought me a bunch of new sneakers. I'm just saying, like, right, all the kickbacks. Nah,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's what they think, but it's hilarious. Like we're not there like, yeah, we gave them they wanted a hundreds table and we said no. Yes, good job. Like I would want everything to help my student. If I think they need this, we're giving it to them.
yeah, the us versus them thing is wild, and I keep coming back to the idea of it. We're on the team. We are part of the us, and the them
Hmm.
is the outer world. Like the them is the person that is going to ignore their learning difference altogether when they're getting a paycheck. That's who the them is. So I'm with you 1,000% on the us versus them mentality, and it even works in the other direction too when you're not in special ed. because when an AP test, right, like that's my frame of references for the AP classroom. I've had a lot of teachers who, or excuse me, a lot of parents that have in the past kind of questioned credentials of whether you can get them over the line. And at that point, you're competing, it's an us versus them. Oh, I'm competing against my teacher, my student's teacher, and the AP test. And so you're right. If you reframe it as, look, we all have a common opponent, and the opponent, we're on the same team. That's the crucial part. I do like that it is uh, through the lens of special ed though, because those can be very, very contentious. I've sat in on a few when I had inclusion class and the co-teach model, and ooh, buddy, those can get very, very contentious for sure.
Yeah, I mean, coming into a into an IEP meeting and you can already feel it, right? you
Yeah.
you already know this might not be the one, and I don't like feeling that way because again, I'm there to help the child. So why are we yelling? Why are we like getting mad? But I'm one of those teachers who's just gonna give them as much as the parents kind of want, right? I am gonna push back at times, but overall, I'm there to help the child, and they are my student. So why would I say no to some of the things the parent is telling me are going to help? It doesn't really make sense, but it's all a give and go. I know when you're newer, you're kind of like, I don't know how much I can give, I don't know how much I can take. Um, but you always have to remember, and I always tell people this: you are there for the students.
Mhm.
As much as I am willing to help my parents, sometimes I even have to let the parents know I'm here for you, but I am mostly here for the child. Um, I need to be on their behalf because sometimes you have kids who you have to advocate for them because the parents aren't. So you have to go over there and be the one that's like advocating for them. So it's a very tough job, but when you're there for the child, it makes things a lot easier.
Fair, fair. Well, that's a good one. I like it, and it turns out to be somewhat true in the sense that the us versus them is there, but just misaligned because you're on their team. So for sure, I like that. Uh, I'll go ahead and I'll give you mine, the internet opinion, because let me tell you what this. Well, the myth. It's a myth, but here's the
Enjoy the
thing about,
couch, dude.
yeah, I'm digging a hole. I'm digging a hole. It's what's happening. Uh, I think this has more validity to it than not. It's more true than not. So there's always some variation of this framing on the internet for me. I constantly see on threads or I'll hear on reels and even occasional TikToks that school had us doing hot cross buns on a recorder and learning that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but they should have been teaching us how to do taxes. They should have been teaching us how to do this stuff. They should have been teaching us how to do this stuff. And the internet opinion that I think actually is true is that school should teach more functional work and more functional things that will help you when you are outside of that building. So I think they have a case. Uh, what do you think? What's your perspective on that?
I love this one, but I'm going to push back on this and play a little bit devil's advocate. I think schools do teach these things in the overarching curriculum, but a lot of the times when people are saying these things, they're saying them in the now, not in who they were back then, right? They're like, schools never taught us these things. My guy, I know who you were as a student. You weren't listening. Let's be honest. All right. So it is not fair for you to take your anger out in the now on school that was trying to teach you these things, right? Because if you were listening during school, you would be smart enough to know how to do your taxes because it should be pretty easy, right? You've gained some knowledge, right? And not all knowledge is going to be the same, but I think it's an easy way to throw your shortcomings and blame them on somebody else, right? And
For
say
sure.
it is the school's fault because they never. I think more of what you're saying is teach things explicitly, and I think that's what they want to. But I go back to your 16, 17 self and say, even if I taught you explicitly what you think you want to know now, you wouldn't have been listening.
I think, and that's a great response because that's usually the first thing. So it'll be teachers taught us the Pythagorean theorem, but not how to do taxes. And someone literally in the comments below will be like, "But you were probably talking." And so it's not wrong. I think that's a fair point. The case that I would make as to why I think it has some truth to it is that, especially at the high school level, there are so many classes and so many things that, to use your phrasing, are not taught explicitly in place of other things. Like, I teach English, for example, right? And I don't believe that you needed 4 years of English at the high school level. I just don't. I think that if you really wanted to take an author study, great. There could be an elective that you advocate for, or if a teacher wants to offer that, that's a great option. But I don't think you need 4 years of English. That could be replaced by a taxes class, or that could be replaced by something that's a little bit more functional in 2026.
But what about the kids who are behind? They're not gonna get that extra stuff. Like,
For sure.
and this again, like if it works that way, um, the kids who are ahead, the kids who are smart, who would already know how to do this in their later life because they are smart enough to know, right, are gonna go on and be successful. And the kids who had to repeat some of these English classes are gonna be the ones going, well, it was never explicitly taught. Like,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is take responsibility for your actions, right? If I don't know how to do my taxes, I am smart enough and intelligent enough at this point to go figure out how to do them, right? Um, I'm not going to just sit here and instead of going to go learn it myself, go on my Instagram and start posting on a bunch of things. Well, I was never taught this, so I'm never going to learn this. No, I'm going to take it upon myself to go learn this and become a better person, right? And one of the reasons why I became a teacher was because I could help students learn some of these tax things, right? Kind of started at a young level. That's another good thing for me. Like, I fully agree with you that we need to prepare these students to be successful in life. And one of the ways to do that is to do these things that they are going to use in their life. But where I differ is where people just go and blame their teachers or the school or the district or whatever it is and say that they never taught them those things when the teacher was talking you or the teacher was educating you on things you were probably talking and not being the best student.
Playing
um,
Roblox on your laptop or Chromebook or whatever, right?
we've all been there, right?
For sure.
I mean, I don't know about the private school because you have a lot more kids who have already bought in with their parents having to spend hard earned money that they're probably not, you know, they know they have to be doing things, but um, in public, a lot of these kids are kind of going through the motions, and then they come out the other side, start working, and they're like, "Well, we were never taught these things." Well, you were probably not doing your work.
Yeah, and coming from the private school lens, because that's where I was most recently, you're not wrong. There's definitely a little bit more of a locked in factor for some of my students. But there's definitely still some angle, like you said, there are some students that are going through the motions as well there. But what I'll say is that I think there's a beauty in teaching a real world relatable skill inside of the overarching curriculum. And where I kind of found my sweet spot was a few years ago, after seeing this comment a ton on the internet, and thinking about, okay, well, I grew up, I was in high school in the 2000s, I graduated in 2003. The world is vastly different. There's no way that I could have been prepared in 2003 for the 2026 world, but I probably could have been better prepared for the 2005 world when I was in school in 2003, or graduating in 2003. And so I thought back of like, okay, well, what are some things that I can sneak into my curriculum that still keep our goal of acing the AP test? Shout out episode 2 for teaching to the test. But the how can I sneak some of this stuff in? And with AP language and composition, there's a spot where you have to look at data, and you have to look at data from a neutral perspective and come up with your own narrative that answers a question. And so the last, I'd say, 7 years or so, I've really harped in about, yeah, this is how you do it for the test, but let's talk about what narratives and how does data get utilized appropriately. How do you misuse data? How do you use it in the best way? And that, to me, is where I'm trying to sandwich in maybe some of that functional world. because I think again you've got to be able to read beyond just what a chart shows you. You've got to be able to put a narrative to it and use it for what it's intended. So I try to sneak it in there because I tend to agree that you don't need all the classes in high school that are there. I think that there could be a speeding up of the curriculum and that we could speed up the school day for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good teacher, right? A good teacher isn't going to teach just to the curriculum. They're going to teach to what we like to call as like realia, like real world problems, right? And where you're not just like, well, if you have two apples and then you get two more apples, and just like in the general, you're taking stuff from their cultural background or whatever it is, their story, and teaching that way. And if you could bring in some real world into your school, that is a great into your school, into your classroom. That is a great teacher because it is showing them that you are going to use this later on in life. I think that's probably where people get kind of frustrated that a lot of teachers probably just phoned it in too, right? And they were just doing the curriculum. They weren't making this a real world thing. Like, hey, well, the book is for the real world, but they weren't giving us outside problems and hey, this is gonna work for your taxes later. Let's do a tax equation. But I think it goes both ways. I don't think it's just the teacher. I don't think it's just the student. I think there is uh, a mutually exclusive, like both of them are at odds, right? And if you want to be a good teacher and prepare these kids for the real world, you have to bring in the real world into your classroom, um, and vice versa. It's so hard to teach some of these kids at this point, especially in the high school, because they don't think any of this stuff is going to affect them later on in life,
I
and
mean,
then
to
it
be
does.
fair, well, and to be fair though, some of it is very hard to sandwich that in, right? The biggest disclaimer I have at the beginning of our AP language class is you're never going to be asked in the real world, unless you want my job, to write 3 essays from cold in 2.5 hours. Like that's never going to happen. You legitimately will not be asked. This is the one time in your life that it will happen. However, the skills you need to do that are going to be important. So, like the ability to realize halfway through your essay, oh, I haven't answered the question, and the ability to reroute. That's huge. That is across all worlds. And I try to work with my specific students, my clientele at that point, where I'm like, okay, a lot of you want to go into engineering. You're going to have a moment on your team project where you've realized you have been doing the hypothesis incorrectly, and you've got to reverse course, and you have to reverse course quickly. Can you do it? Because the deadline doesn't change. You can't go to your boss and be like, yo, I need a 2 week extension because I was doing it wrong the whole time. First of all, never admit that. But secondly, go in and you have to adjust on the fly. That's the skill we're looking for here. And so I try really hard to make that disclaimer, but some things are hard to do that with, right? Like I find it, I even went to college on a music scholarship at LSU, and I find it hard to justify a need to take a music course, a requirement to take a music course in high school, for example. And I know some elective teachers are going to come at me here, right? And that's fine. I want all the smoke from the elective teachers because I would make the case that unless you're trying to make it applicable to a real world thing, we don't need the course.
You, hey man, this guy's sleeping on everyone's couch at this point.
It's fine. Look, like I said, I want all the smoke on this because I do think there's some level of it that's functionality. I even, if you go back, what, 10 minutes ago, I did say I don't think you need 4 years worth of English. I teach upperclassmen classes. I teach junior and senior. If you're cutting out years of English course, you're cutting my class. So I'm not coming after an elective teacher specifically. I'm saying that I think a lot of classes need to justify their existence in a 2026 world when you're teaching certain skills and that you're choosing to not teach certain skills. Maybe that's the take, but I think
Yeah,
that we've got to find a way to make ourselves be relevant in this world for our students. Otherwise, you're having them read the Odyssey for no reason other than Christopher Nolan made it. And that's cool. And you were cool for like 3 hours because it's a 3 hour movie. You were the cool guy in the theater. But there were lessons to be pulled from that, that unless you're making it clear and you're explicitly, to use your term, I think you're missing a massive opportunity.
yeah, and I think you're right about the curriculum. The curriculums needs an update at this point, like just curriculum in general. especially certain curriculum that districts use, um, they really need an update. Like I think sometimes that's where we get lost. Like if a teacher is just teaching to that curriculum and with the buck and all that stuff, that's where a lot of the students are just kind of like, this is not gonna matter later on in life. When in reality, if you brought in some explicit like teaching, they would understand that this is going to affect them in a later life, right? So I agree with you on that. I think we do need to kind of update a lot of the teaching for the now in 2026.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I said, I the 2026 world is so different. Maybe this is me being 41. The 2026 world is so different than the 2003 world that I entered college into. And
No, you're right.
yeah, I wish there were some skills that I had from high school that would have been a little bit more explicit that would have helped me in 2007, 2008. But it is what it is. I did have a really great high school. Shout out to McGill Tulane Catholic for helping me along there, right? But the idea is that I did have really great teachers who did teach me real world applicability, and I was good enough to think on my feet and move forward. So I think there's some validity. So I at least will hear people out, but I do like the retort of like, well, you were probably playing Minecraft on your computer when they were going over how to do this. So
Um,
it's not
I guess I
wrong.
want all the smoke too. I'm just saying that there's two.
Yeah. Oh, you're not wrong. There's definitely some of that where like get off the computer, man. Focus up and listen. So
I mean, that might be a hot take, but I think at this point in 2026, the accountability is so low, for a lot of people. Like they will not hold themselves accountable. No consequences for anyone. This is students and just in general, right? You go and talk to whoever you want, and it's always somebody else doing the problem, right? It's not me holding myself accountable. Um, and I look at things in the what can I do, right? When I'm talking about my students, how can I better help them? Where did I maybe mess up? And how do I correct that? No, it's not somebody else's problem, right? The co teaching model, I don't get to throw my co teacher under the bus and go, yeah, it was their fault. They're not teaching because I'm in there too. So at that point, I either have to go in there and help teach it, or we have to collaboratively say, hey, I don't know if this is the best thing. But, that's one of the reasons why I can do my job because I put a lot on myself.
for sure. I love that. The idea that you also were in the room at the same time. So, Miss Smith didn't say this. Oh, no, she said it. Like I heard it and you definitely were in the room and we can validate that. That is the other side of that. And again, I loved my students at my last institution because they would call each other out when they would be like, wait, we have a time right on Thursday. And someone's like, yeah, he announced it last class. Where were you? It's also been on the calendar for 2 weeks. Like, what is the story? And so they'll
Mm-hmm.
get called. They will call each other out and they'll hold each other accountable when they've bought into the mission. And so, shout out to the AP line classes. That was definitely a thing where like I didn't have to run that one that hard. That was cool. So, well, switching gears,
Yeah. Did you want to do a
you
sneaker one, or did you want me to do a sneaker one? I
I
think
can do
you
the
probably
sneaker
have a
one.
hotter take, I'm sure.
I think I can do the sneaker one for you. Okay. So I thought about this one long and hard, and again, I want all the smoke today. So
Oh my
I'm made my wife a little bit upset when she listens to this. I've made some elective teachers upset. So here's the thing. Okay. Uh, the internet believes that reps are not cool and that reps are unacceptable. Reps being replica sneakers, dupes, if you will. Okay. I'm going to come out and say there's actually some truth to the point that reps are okay. You can have replica sneakers, and that is perfectly fine. What is your thought
Oh,
on this one? Before
I
I
can't
defend myself, what's
I
your thought?
can't I can't do this one. I can't do I'm gonna be honest. Man, just shut this whole thing down. I'm over. No, I'm gonna be real honest. I do not care what people put on their feet. I'm not going to be over there like, hey, those aren't real. I work in a population where a lot of kids have fake shoes. I know that. I'm not going to go tell a kid that their shoes are fake because I know that they probably wanted those shoes. The parents probably couldn't afford those shoes, and they found those shoes at a very affordable price and said those are the same shoes. So for me, those are the coolest shoes you've ever had in your life. And as a sneaker teacher, I've talked about this before. I'm going and saying those are some awesome shoes. Um, I do not care what you put on your feet. But I don't think I also can say like you should be buying reps as opposed to the real thing. Uh, I That's just something with me, right? I think that's where I kind of differ, where people are actively buying reps for whatever reason, um, to do the same thing as if you had the real ones. I just, it's not for me. But again, I do not care if you do it or not. I'm not going to um, bash on you or whatever. You live your life the way you want to live it. And if you think it's the smartest thing to get reps because you're getting them at an affordable price and you're not spending an arm and a leg, more power to you.
I like how you put that, live your life. That's fair. My take on it is that these brands have gotta stop playing in our face sometimes about the price on shoes, right? Like, it is starting to get absurd. And shout out to Kari because he did about the True Blues. He did some content about the True Blues, the Jordan 3s that just released, and it's $250 when you start walking out the door after taxes and everything. That is obscene.
You're not
That is a
wrong. Keep
that is
going. Come on.
that is a problem. And again, there are people who are going to buy it, which means that brands are going to be justified in making the price what it is, and it's unfortunate. But they have to quit. Again, I'll repeat it. They have to quit playing in our face about this because we know it does not cost that much, nor does it come even close to that to produce that sneaker. And I think again, to your point, if you can't afford a $250 shoe, which shout out, you don't you that's a hard thing to do. $250 is a lot of money. In 2026, in this economy, that is a lot of money to be dropping on shoes.
In this
And
economy,
yeah, like it's absurd. It's my favorite thing to shout, by the way. Pause this hot take. It is my favorite thing to shout just randomly in a conversation. Someone will be like, "Yeah,
I love just randomly the you go buy a couple. I live in LA, so everything's expensive, and I'm okay. But when I when we went to go do the matcha, I'm sorry I'm derailing your thing, but like
oh no,
let's
you're
make a
good."
little. I don't want to sleep on the couch. All right. On the metaphorical sneaker Twitter sneaker community couch. But we went to go get the matcha, and I didn't even pay for it. And my one of my best friends pays for it, and it was $9. And I just went in this economy in the middle of the restaurant. But me and you are goofballs, so like,
Dude,
I
I
thought it
love
was hilarious.
I love to just shout it randomly, and it doesn't even have to be about money. Like
Yeah,
it could be just, like someone could be like, "Did you watch the Brazil Japan game in this economy?" Like just shout it out, and
it's
it's
the
a perfect segue.
That's why when you said it, I thought it was. I had to like in this economy.
Yep, it's perfect so
but go,
much.
but go off,
Back
King. Go,
back
let him
yeah,
know.
back to it.
Nike. But do you? Question before you continue. Do you think Nike does this? Adidas does this? Saucony or all of them? Like, are you just singling one out? Because right now you were talking about Nike.
I am kind of talking about Nike and Jordan, and I think that they're the most egregious at it. But I will say that Adidas has slowly creeped up its price, and New Balance is guilty of this too. Although some of the runners have always been $200, and so
Yeah, New
I
Balance
can't
is. They've had their prices up there for a long time.
yeah, so I can't be too mad about that. But when it starts to creep beyond that, you're gonna. I promise you that it's the year 2026 right now. In the year 2027, we're gonna be talking about how $300 is the bare minimum now to get in on a sneaker, and I think that's where we're creeping, unless people use the power of the purse to go back, right? And this is where I'm okay with reps because if you're gonna take a rep of a shoe and it only costs you, we'll say, because granted, I do not own any reps. There's my sneaker credibility, right? I don't have any reps, but I'm not above buying a rep of, say, the Chunky Dunk for Ben and Jerry's because of the resale market on those, or I'm not above finding a rep of a Travis Scott that you really wanted. If that's what you want, great, because the price on that for resale is obscene. And if it's a retail sneaker that's like 250 out the door, by all means, do what you have to do because it's absurd.
Are you saying you would do that though?
So I actually ooh, this is a tough point. I'm okay with it. I'm not seeking it out. I will say this, shout out to my wife because she has a rule. We have a rule in our house that if I pay resale, I do not pay more than 1.5 times the retail price. Like that is the rule. And so I have stuck to that rule. There's not a single sneaker in my house that I have paid more than retail and a half for. And that's a thing. So that puts things like the Chunky Dunk out of our price range. That puts the Travis Scotts out of our price range if I don't hit on for retail, right? And so I think it's important to understand that if you really do want that sneaker, and she's talked about if there was ever a pair she would go for reps, it would be the Chunky Dunks, or she wants the Travis Scott. I'm going to say it wrong. The medium olive, I think the olive pair, one of the OGs. The olive and red is the one she likes. She would buy a rep of those, and I would be totally fine for it. I would buy that rep for her because I didn't get to hit on those shoes, and if she wants those,
Don't
great, more power to you.
don't throw her under the bus. I'm asking you, would
Would
you
I?
buy? Yeah, she's not the sneaker teacher over here.
That is
She's
fair.
you are the sneaker teacher. Would
That is
you actively go buy the rep?
That's a fair point. So, for sake of the podcast, I'm gonna say, yeah, I would buy a rep. I would wear rep Chunky Dunks. But to be
End
fair,
this right now. End
and
this
it's
thing.
over. It's over. But here's your flip. Here's the flip on this though. So I can pass on a sneaker, and we've actually talked about this both on and
That's
off
why I
camera.
was bringing this up because I'm okay passing on a sneaker.
Yeah,
Like, and I think that's where people who buy reps get lost in the sauce. You don't have to have the sneakers,
yeah,
and they make that in their mind. Well, why can't I have it if I could just buy a rep that's cheaper? It's okay not to have something, right?
sure.
And that's why I asked you that question. Because for me, it's like, dude, I would love a pair of Chunky Dunkies, but I'm not paying that price.
Mhm.
And my immediate next thought isn't, well, I'm just going to go buy a rep. It's okay, that is just now a grail.
Okay. So
That is,
the hard part for me for like the Chunky Dunky specifically is the longer you wait, like that shoe has a shelf life, right? Like so
it's a grail. It goes higher and higher in grail status for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, now it's a shoe. You're like, okay, it's going up, and I'll wait for a retro. If I'm being honest, I've waited for retros for other shoes enough at this point. But my immediate thought at this point isn't, well, it's gone too high. I'm just gonna go buy reps. It's like, now just move on to the next one, and if it comes out or if something happens where I can afford it, I will go get the shoe, but I'm not actively like, I need that shoe and I'm gonna go buy a rep because I can't afford it. I'll just move on to the next one. That's why I asked you the question.
and I think it's a fair question. No, you're right. I'm not actively going out to buy a rep, but I'm not above it in the sense that I do want a pair of Chunky Dunkies, and if anybody has a pair that's a size 8.5 and retail and a half, I would buy that. But
So you're
my
gonna get scammed for reps right now.
pretty much. That's good. I'm about to get 1,000 DMs that are just like, yeah, scams. But no, the thing is, like, I would buy the rep if I realize, like, look, we're 10 years from now, so like 2036. I would buy a rep of a Chunky Dunky because I know that the original is not going to hold up, and if they don't re-retro it, okay, I at least can say that I have a shoe that resembles it and looks like it enough that unless you're going to get on your hands and knees and look at it with a magnifying glass, that's the thing. And here's my take on it too, and then we can get to yours because I think I have already shot my sneakerhead credibility with this take. There's a whole branch of content. There's a whole branch of content about putting side by sides of the real and the fake. And I thought about this literally the other day when I was making the plan for this
But
episode.
that's a sales thing though.
Explain. What do you mean? Tell me more.
Who's benefiting from putting the two shoes next to each other?
Sure, the content creator by all means. But what
No,
I'm getting
the rep factory. They're selling these people on. They are the same shoe. Let's put them side by side. Like, right? They're selling the shoe. They're like, look, why would you buy this one when this one looks the same?
see the content that I came across isn't the rep dealers. That's actually, I mean, that's a
Okay,
good point, but that's not what I was coming across. The content that I came across was dissing reps and saying, look at these two side by side. Can you tell the difference? And then you go to the next slide and it's this super zoomed in, circled single piece. And part of me is like, unless I'm blue lighting it, I don't know. And I'm
you
not
got the
pressed.
blue light. I'm
Yeah,
a, I, I'm walking up to everyone now. Like, what you got on? You got these?
And that's the thing for me. I am not that pressed that if it's literally down to a single stitching being wrong, that I'm gonna call it out. To me, you win. You have the pair of chunky dunkies. Good for you. That's the thing that I would say. And I think also to your point about if my student's going to walk up and wearing a pair of chunky dunkies, I'm not going to try and validate them because to me that's the coolest shoe in the world. That kid has the coolest pair
Yeah.
on because I'm not going to call that out. And I would do it even at a sneaker con. I just don't think that reps are a problem in the way that people make it out to be. To me, it's a form of gatekeeping. And I kind of feel like if you're that pressed about what's on someone else's foot, that says more about you than them.
I do agree with that. That sentiment of like actively going out to make people feel bad about what they have on their feet when
Mhm.
you don't know any background on who they are, what they can afford, anything like, and that's why I said when my I work with those kids that have fake shoes. I'm never going to tell them, "Well, you know those shoes are fake. Get the real ones." That's not who I am. Again, just like you said, I'm not going to sneaker cons and going, "Hey, that's a fake shoe." I'm not going on your page and going, "That's a fake shoe." I do not care what you do with it. For me, though, as a sneaker teacher, you got to remember authenticity is key.
Yeah.
And I cannot be wearing, this is just for me. I don't care what any of you guys else think or if I'm materialistic or all this stuff. But for me, if any one of these shoes is fake, they are all fake.
Mm. Okay.
And like that's just because we built the authenticness on having the authentic shoe,
Yeah.
right? And if one of them turns out to be fake, I mean, everyone gets got, right? I want to say I haven't, but who knows? But if one of these shoes is fake, that just makes the whole teacher heat persona now teacher replica, right? Teacher replica heat. I have built that trust with people on having authentic shoes. So for me, I wouldn't go out and buy one because like I said, I'm okay missing shoes now. I would just go on to the next one and say I can't afford that anymore. It's out of the price range. But we're gonna move on to the next pair of shoes that is a cool shoe to me. And I'm okay wearing Vans too. Like that's one of my biggest things with reps. Like, dude, you could rock a fit with a fresh pair of 50, $60 Vans. Why don't we just do that? Why does it have to be, the Travis Scott reps? Like, why couldn't you just go get a pair of Vans and build your portfolio up on what you have through that lens? But again, I don't want people saying like, "Oh, you care too much about it." I really don't. Like, this is just us talking.
Yeah, and my take on it before we shift to your myth is mostly it's about economy. At this point, the prices are out of hand, and so if somebody wants to seek out a cheaper alternative, and the difference is minute, so unless you're going to blue light somebody's sneaker, then I think reps are acceptable.
I got you. I
That
got
that's
you.
a yeah, you got me on that one. I think it's a fair. I think that's a fair point to make.
I do agree with that point. Sneakers have become uh, a a commodity where they are pricing people out,
they really are, and
pricing people who like shoes out. Um, and as a sneakerhead, we have to remember that us owning these shoes and all this stuff is a privilege that other people don't have. Other people want to be like us, and this is me talking about my students. I know students who want to kind of be like Mr. Guzman, like he gets the cool shoes and gets to rock all this stuff, but they are not there yet. And that's where my teaching comes in. Like, hey, you can go to school and then get all the cool stuff too, right? I
yeah,
did come from a similar background as these kids, so that's where I do it. But I think if I were to wear a replica shoe, that is a house of cards and it just crumbles at that point because they're just like, oh, he's not even buying the real shoes, he's just buying the fake ones. So he's not even like,
yeah,
this whole education thing he preaches about is probably not even the best because he can't even afford the cool shoes. He has to buy the secondary ones, right?
yeah.
um but that's just a me thing, and that's who I chose to be. Had I been replica heat, it would have been fine.
That would be a wild screen name, and I can't wait for somebody to get in our DMs who actually is Replica Heat or somebody who just only wears reps. There's got to be a person out there that
And
that
shout
is
out
their
to the
vibe.
guy who took Professor Drip as a screen name because that's the one I wanted.
Oh, that might be a villain origin story. Like that's obscene. Professor Drip. Oh,
Yeah, that's
but
what the
dude,
kids used to call me out of middle school. They would say, "Hey, Professor Drip is here," so I thought it was the coolest name. And then I went to go take it when I transitioned over to Teacher Heat.
yeah,
Maybe I shouldn't say transition because people are going to think some weird things about teachers.
stop being
But
political.
but when I went over to the Teacher Heat, my first thought was I'm gonna be Professor Drip because that's what they call me. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
And somebody took it. Somebody had it, and they
Oh
weren't even
man.
doing anything with it. So
Well, and you can't be Professor Drip too. Like that doesn't run the same. That doesn't run the
Professor
same way.
1980 86,
Yeah.
Professor Drip 1986.
It's one of my favorite things when you go to build a screen name and they're just like, well, that one's taken, but here's the same name, but with a bunch of random numbers. It's
Yeah,
like, no, it's not the
underscore.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, man. It's not the
Well,
same thing.
did you want mine or are we gonna go over time?
Nah, I think we got yours. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Okay. So my sneaker myth that is a true myth, but people think it's a lie, is that, um, and this is going off of you too. It's going to bridge well together. That people don't replica GRs.
Ooh, okay.
So people think that because a shoe is made in the Panda Dunk, right? There's millions and millions of that shoe. They think that there are no fakes of that shoe. What people need to understand with replicas is that replicas go off of demand. If a shoe is selling out and there is not a lot of that authentic shoe, they will build replicas for it. On top of that, if a shoe is selling out and they're still pumping more and it's still selling out, replicas are going to come in and start making some so they could get a piece of that pie. So a lot of the times people say, well, they're not going to replica GRs. That's not true. I've seen plenty of replica GRs, um, and they are all around us. So don't think because it's a GR that you might that they are all authentic, right? Sometimes you can get a replica of that shoe as well.
Well, to my point earlier when I was using the example, the True Blue threes, the Jordan 3 True Blue is definitely a shoe that is a GR that would definitely be on the rep market. And so, yeah, I absolutely 100% think that there would be bootlegs or reps of GRs. It would make too much sense because so many Jordans, which are repped a lot, are GRs. They're not
Mm-hmm.
all collabs. So, like, no, that makes perfect sense that that would be a true statement that there are bootlegs and reps of GRs. And I would think that those actually move a lot better than maybe the collab ones, right? Because
That's what I'm saying. It's a demand thing, right?
yeah. That was one of the first thoughts I had when you started seeing every year the StockX list comes out about what's the most purchased shoe on StockX. And any secondary market, be it StockX, be it eBay, be it your local neighborhood plug, there's always some risk that you're getting either taken because you're buying a fake sneaker and or that you're getting ripped off in terms of price, right? Like there's always some kind of risk in any secondary market. So this is not shouting out a single market for that, but it's funny because the most bought shoe is like an Adidas Samba. And it's the white and black version that you can find anywhere at Adidas. I was just at the outlet with my nephew this weekend. They're everywhere, but you can still buy them on the secondary market. And yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that there are rep Sambas in the white
Yep.
and black colorway that's super basic.
Mm-hmm. And going for like $50 cheaper.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's interesting to me is on a GR. So this would be one where I'm kind of interested. So it's not all GRs are created equal in terms of this, right? Like the white and black Samba, for example, is super readily available. At that point, it is about price. You're getting a rep because it's about price. It's not necessarily about demand at that stage. It's well, that's a popular shoe that I want, but I don't want to pay that price.
Well, a lot of the
Versus
times people get duped, right? You go and tell, like, as a parent, right? Your son tells you, "Hey, let me go. Can I get some sambas?" And you go and type in sambas, and you see them for 100. What are they? 120? 100?
around
What?
that,
How much?
yeah.
There you see them for 120, and then you right next to them you see them for $60,
Hmm.
right? And they look the same. but one is 60 and one is 120. Which one are you clicking on? As a parent,
Oh,
you know nothing about it. You're going for the $60 one. You didn't even buy it. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna buy the cheaper one. Why would I spend double that? I get you
mhm,
two pairs of this one. Like these guys are just price gouging, and they don't even know that it's a rep. They just thought it was a real thing, and they were getting it at a deal.
mhm. And sometimes the reps are really bad. You didn't buy an Adidas Samba, you bought an Adidas Somba. Like, that you didn't even get the right one. And that's the part where I like, again, I'm not advocating that people go out and buy reps. I'm more advocating for, man, the brand's got to drop prices. Yeah, right. There you go. It would definitely show up as Soba instead of Samba, and like gold lettering doesn't show up there. No, it's more about the price. So I do think, yeah, the GRs are different based on demand, right? I think
Yeah.
a true blue three will show up a little bit differently than say the Panda Dunk. So,
Hmm.
but that was one of my biggest concerns when the Panda Dunks were super popular, is how many of these are fake and people didn't know, because it was such a popular shoe
It was
that
going for
people
like
may
four
not have
hundred
even
dollars.
known. Yeah. Now it would hurt my heart. This is a whole different side of it, and this is a conversation maybe for a different day in the sense that it's related, but not. I would be more hurt if I paid $400 and got a fake. I want the fake to be below market value. If I paid $400 for a fake pair of Chunky Dunks, no, that can't happen. First of all, I would have broken my personal best on sneaker price, right? I broke the rule and I broke it for a pair of fakes. No, that's not okay. I have to be paying between 50 and $60 for a pair of fakes. I can't be doing that. So that's the rule on that one. But there you go. Well, I like that idea about the GRs, and yeah, this has been fun as far as the myths, right? We've taken 2 episodes to talk about myths and how some of them are true, and some of them are just completely and patently false, ranging with education all the way through sneakers. Uh, but I guess the moral of the story today, the more you know, to bring it back to the commercial from the '90s, is stay aware. We are on your side. If you're a parent listening, we're on your side when it comes to your students, especially in the realm of special ed, and gifted and talented too. We're on your side. We're not trying to advocate against your student, and maybe we need to be clearer about how that gets told, right? It's a messaging problem, kind of like I think teachers can be more explicit in their messaging about how something connects to the real world. So I think that's the moral of today's story about education, right? Is we need to be more explicit in what our goal is. Maybe that way some of these myths don't come through.
Not only that, but on the flip side, sometimes you need to be responsive too, right? When
Yeah.
when somebody is telling you that this is going to affect you in this way, maybe your response should be, "Oh, maybe I should listen," as opposed to, "Nah, it's okay," right? And that goes for both parents and students, right? When I'm telling a parent that I'm there for their child, they can just be very, "Oh, this dude's just saying that so you can get one over on me," right? You
Hmm.
have to be responsive. Same thing with the children, and remember, you have to take accountability too.
Yeah, and being responsive, man. That the accountability comes for everybody. I think that is a truism in 2026, both in education and to a degree in pop culture in general, right? Like accountability comes for everybody. You can skirt accountability for a little while, but eventually, yeah, you have to file taxes. And if you weren't paying attention when Mr. Guzman brought that up or told you to pay attention, then that's on you. Accountability's showing up at that point, right? Kind of like the day that I'm going to be wearing my rep pair of Chunky Dunks and somebody's going to call me out and I will be held account, or somebody's going to be in my DMs and is going to call me out. So that's that. Well,
Sleeping
this
on
has
the
been
couch with
fun.
a red pair of chunky dunks.
Yep, yeah, I'm about to get spammed. So spammed and scammed. That's going to be the new phrase. It's going to be
I think
bad.
that one thing before we leave, um, and I know I'm pretty sure there's people who listen. There's a lot of people who don't. But when you're doing the clips for it, I love that we talk about the things people are bringing up in the clips later on if they listen to the podcast. So like, with the which one was it? Um, I forgot, but it was something about a white shoe. And somebody said, "Yeah, this is like Air Force Ones." We literally brought up Air Force Ones a little bit later on in the pod. So if you listen, we're hitting on these points that you guys are bringing up.
Yeah,
which I really love because that shows that we are actively thinking about all these areas where people are going to come from, not just our own personal opinion.
for sure. That is it all comes full circle, right? Like that little tidbit at the beginning of the show or the beginning of a movie comes back later and you're like, I remember that. People, if you listen carefully, we drop you little Easter eggs throughout this episode all the time. That's the big thing. So, but as always, this has been Lesson Plans to Laces. I'm James Alidor. It's Jalidor across all social media contacts.
I'm Mr. Guzman, Teacher Heat across all social media platforms. Join the giveaway.
Yes, go click on the giveaway. All right, guys. Thank you all. Peace.